Hi, Todd Sachs of Sachs Realty, and welcome to this episode of Inspired. I'm sitting here with Stephanie Bonte-Lebair, and she has a business called The Empowered Voice. She teaches people how to use their voice to actually sell more and to articulate better with people. And she also has a sales training. It's called Bank, and I think you're going to like this podcast. All right, Stephanie, so we're so glad to have you on this episode of Inspired. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, Todd. I'm Stephanie Bonte-Lebair, and I'm a singer turned voice presentation and sales coach.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So you're a professional singer.
I am. I've been singing since I was 3 years old. Always was singing as a toddler. In fact, my mother tells a story. They had a Ford Green Comet, which had the bench seats. And
I remember those
You remember
comments.
those?
I
And
do.
this was back in the 70s when they didn't have seatbelt laws in place, okay?
Correct.
So I'm a toddler standing in the back seat of the car, leaning up against the front seat. My mom's driving. It's late at night. And I used to sing in the car all the time. She said we would drive places and I would just sing songs because Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star apparently was my favorite song. Other, little ABCs, whatever it is. So I'm singing in the car. And all of a sudden it gets really quiet and my mom looks over her shoulder and I had draped myself over the front bench seat. I had fallen asleep singing. I sang myself to sleep with the sound of my own voice, basically.
Made her job easier.
Yeah.
So she told me that story and it stuck with me because it was, just a micro moment of how I just felt about singing. I mean,
Little snapshot right
I was
there.
singing
Yeah,
until
that's
I
nice.
fell asleep. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so in school, I was lucky enough to go to a really great school. It was a little town called Byron, Illinois, and we were known for our nuclear power plant. So apparently we all glow in the dark.
Okay.
Very small town, less than 10,000 people.
Wow.
But we had a lot of funds because of the power plant. They gave a lot of money to the education system in our town, which was a blessing for all of us. So we had a lot of the extracurricular activities. I was lucky enough to be in choir, in band, in the musicals, all of it at the same time. I didn't have to choose. I could be in everything. And so I had a huge arts background as I was growing up, and I already knew that I loved to sing. So then I got the education in my grade school years and high school years to be able to feel confident enough that this is what I wanted to do. And then I went right on into college and got my bachelor's and master's in vocal performance and became a classically trained opera singer, which is what you are when you get your master's in voice.
When did you decide that it really was what you wanted to do? You wanted to perform?
Well, I don't know if there was a specific moment, but there was always a drive that I had to do as much music as possible. And I believe that drive came from the fact that I wasn't really the best at sports. In other words, I tried volleyball, I tried track. I was okay.
Yeah.
No one really paid attention. But when I would sing, when I would get into a show, my parents, my father especially, he lit up when he saw me sing. He would come to my performances at school and he would just tell me how great it was. And you could just, when your parents, feel proud of you, that makes an impact on a
Gives you the
child,
courage to
right?
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was the combination of being in this really great school district that was supportive of the arts and having parents who really encouraged me to pursue my singing. That really led me to go right into college as a singer. Now, my parents did have a moment where they said, "Are you sure you don't want to be an education major? I mean, how are you going to make money as a singer?"
And what else will you do?
Yeah. So I did have one semester where I was an education major, and I was like, no, this is not for me. I do not want to go into the public school system.
Teach choir.
Yeah.
Teach music.
I want to sing. That's what I want to do. So I went performance, and my parents, luckily, didn't have a lot of say in the matter, quite frankly, but they were supportive. And I got my bachelor's degree, and then I went to Illinois State University, and I remember when I graduated, they offered me a full ride for my master's program. Not only did they offer me a full ride, but they offered to make me a graduate teaching student, where I actually gave me an office and I taught the undergraduates and the theater majors singing
that's
lessons
great.
Wow.
as a graduate student.
Wow.
So they paid me
That's awesome.
to get my graduate degree. So I knew that there was something there that I really wanted to pursue at a bigger level. And I knew that I actually love to teach. I love to help other people. I just didn't want to do it in that formal, structured public education system way. I wanted to do it my way. When you have a master's degree, you can teach anyone. Like you can just do your own thing, which
Yeah.
is, that's my personality type is I want to be in charge. I want to have, that's why I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't want to work for a boss that tells me when to clock in, when to clock out, right?
Yep.
So I knew that would be a way for me to make income. I wasn't worried. And
Wow.
then, moved to New York City and started performing in opera, musicals, cabaret, dinner theater, amusement parks. I did a little bit of everything.
That's amazing.
Wow.
How long
Yeah.
did you live in New York City?
I lived in New York for about 3 years. I lived there from 2000 to 2003. So I was there during 9/11,
Oh, wow.
worked a day job in Midtown Manhattan for entertainment lawyers, and auditioned on the side and performed on evenings and weekends. And, basically I was in my 20s and loving life. So it was a good
well,
time.
you still perform today, right?
I do. I still perform. In fact, when I moved to Maryland in 2003, I started auditioning for the various theaters. There's actually quite a huge theater community in the DC metropolitan area. A lot of community theaters, a lot of professional theaters. So I was doing auditions, I was performing in shows, and I was teaching voice on the side just to make some extra money. And did that for many, many years. And then I had a child in 2012. So he's 7 now. And I have grown my business to work more with entrepreneurs and business owners now and helping them use their voice, feel comfortable when they're presenting on stage or even having one-on-one conversations with people and networking. So I love to coach. I love to help people, communicate and connect more powerfully.
Yeah, so I want to try and talk a little bit about that too, because I know a lot of people that are listening, they're maybe an entrepreneur or they're in a sales position and their job is to produce. So
Yeah.
how do you, let's talk about that. So you actually teach people in sales training how to use their voice to gain
Yeah.
more business.
Yeah, so I work on the voice itself, like what's the physical voice? How do you need to use it to project in a noisy room, for example, or to hold someone's attention for a long period of time? How do you make it charismatic so that you're not boring people with the sound of your
How do you
voice?
not blast them out of the conversation,
Yes.
right?
And certain things you do with your voice can make or break a conversation.
Like
or,
what?
for example, a lot of people have what's called vocal fry in their voice. Vocal fry is this sort of creaky door sound, like a sound, and it can be annoying if you have a lot of it in your voice, or if you're using it a lot at the ends of sentences, like you're speaking and then you have this vocal fry, and then you're speaking and then there's this vocal fry. And it can be a little bit or a lot, but it can actually have a subconscious effect on people, and they've done studies on vocal fry, especially in women. It can make them sound inauthentic, not trustworthy, or even uneducated.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it can make a big impact, and people don't even realize that they could be having a negative effect with their voice.
So how does somebody know? I mean, how would they even know that they have this effect on people?
A lot of people don't. So you have to have an outside person who knows what that is, maybe say something.
Yeah.
They also may just have a feeling that maybe the sound of their voice isn't what they want it to be. So sometimes it's not even that they have a lot of vocal fry, but they're not happy with the sound of their voice. I've had a lot of people say, I wish I sounded different, especially women. Sometimes if they have a high-pitched voice, will say, I sound like a little girl. People don't realize I'm 55 years old or whatever, they'll tell me. And they want to have a voice that commands authority, that's going to make a difference in a room, that's going to connect with people. So a lot of times I'll be working with people who just want to feel better about what their voice really sounds like, which I'm happy
Do
to
you
do.
find that everybody doesn't like the way they sound? I mean, I know when I listen to myself on video, I sound completely different than
Yeah.
I think that I
I
sound.
think a lot of
so-
people are surprised when they hear the sound of their voice for the first time on a video or an audio recording, because what we hear inside of our own head is different than the acoustics in the room.
Exactly.
So you really are not hearing what you sound like authentically inside your own body. But if you can hear the sound of your voice in a recording and you can feel good about it, that's always my goal. So I want people to love the sound of their voice, not in an egotistical way, like I could just listen to myself talk all day long. But when they hear their voice, they feel good, like, oh, wow, that's what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you take them through that process? I mean, what are the beginning
Well, we
steps?
start with the inner voice first. Like there's an energetic inner voice that we all have that has our thoughts and our feelings. And that actually attaches to the sound, the physical sound of our voice, because when you speak, there's a sound wave that leaves your body and actually touches another person, just as much as if I had gone up and tapped you on the shoulder. And it carries information subconsciously, not just the words that you're using, but there are subconscious pieces of information on that sound wave around how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking internally. And you might not consciously even realize some of that messaging.
So interesting.
So we want to talk about, what are you feeling? How are you preparing yourself to be confident before you go into a conversation, especially a sales conversation? A lot of people get nervous when they have to sell something. So what are
So
you?
they sound nervous.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
sound nervous, and they may not say what they really intended to say because they have that nervous energy inside them that can throw them off. So I help them get centered. We do a lot of exercises to help them center, ground themselves, feel good about what they're about to do. And then we add the layer of the physical exercises. How do you breathe better for speaking? How do you have that voice that's going to last all day long and you're never going to get tired? Or if you've ever been at the end of your day where you sound hoarse, you sound like you've been using your voice a little bit too much all day long, some of that can be technique related. Like, how are you supporting that sound? What are you doing?
You're exerting yourself. right?
Exactly. So there's that physical voice, which then layers on top of the energetic voice. And then the final piece is the mental voice. I call it the mental voice. And this is not just what you're thinking, but also, how are you putting your presentation together? What's the structure of your presentation? What are the key points that you really want to get across to your listener? And what's interesting is that piece is a small piece to the bigger pie. If you imagine a triangle, and the bottom of that triangle is your foundation, that's your energetic voice. The middle of that triangle is your physical voice, and then the top piece of the triangle is the actual script itself, the actual words you choose to use. And it is sitting on top of these other two pieces. And, you know, studies actually show that when scripts are the same, 93% of your effectiveness is actually due to your body language and the sound of your voice, not the words. The words are only 7%.
Wow. So would you say what percentage of the sound of your voice is the inflection itself?
Yeah, it's about 30. I believe the statistic is 36% of your effectiveness is due to the sound of your voice.
Huh.
Interesting.
So it's not so much what you're saying, how you say it.
How you say it is much more important than what you say. Absolutely. And it's not that the words are not important, because of course, you know, you need to say the right things, but your delivery is what connects you to the other person. You know, people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
That's very true.
So you have to be able to connect with them. They have to feel like you're somebody that they really want to do business with. And that is mostly going to be in the way you carry yourself, the way you look at people, how you use your body language, and then, of course, the inflection and the tone of your voice.
So what kind of training is involved? I know with myself, a lot of times my attitude has a lot to do with the sound of my voice. And sometimes where I'm always trying to perform when I'm speaking with somebody, and I'm always trying to give that level of energy, if I just don't feel it that day or that morning, or I'm tired or whatever, at what point does the training allow you to sort of shut down that emotional aspect and still go off of what your voice training? I mean, is that possible?
It sounds
to do?
like you're tapping into your energetic voice when you're talking about how you're
Which
feeling.
is that foundation.
Yeah, the
Right.
feeling is the energy.
So is the training to do that, to less of that?
It's to manage that energy and to focus it in the direction you want it to go. I actually tell people that it's okay if you're a little bit nervous, because nervous energy can be a sign of excitement, right? Sometimes when we're a little too relaxed, it's like I still am a performer, but when I'm in a show and opening night, everybody's always really a little on the nervous side. They're like, okay, it's opening night. Are we going to do it all correctly? And usually opening night goes really well. And then the next night, everybody kind of breathes a sigh of relief. Like, okay, we had opening night. We know what we're doing. They relax a little bit, sometimes a little too much. And the second night's usually the night mistakes are made.
Interesting.
We forget lines. We forget cues. We forget to come on stage at the right time. And so if you're too relaxed, you might not be focused enough to remember everything you really intended to do or say. So a little nervous energy is okay.
Actually
We
helps
just
you.
want to channel it.
Yeah.
So I work with my clients to help them manage their energy in a positive way so that they feel good going into any conversation or presentation.
So how long does that process, typically go? So someone reaches out to you and just say they they're not a vocalist, they're not singing, but they do want sales training or
Yeah.
to be able to articulate better and use that, maintain that level of energy. Where do you start, and what's that process like?
Well, every person's a little different, so everybody's got their own challenges. I think the overarching desire of being on the journey of learning how to be a better communicator is what is required to be able to do coaching. So I'm always assessing people and I'm asking them, well, what do you really want to get out of this? What is your goal? How do you want to improve? What are your biggest challenges? And then we tailor that coaching to meet their needs so that we're focusing on what they want to focus on. And then my clients usually stay with me anywhere between 6 months to a year or more. I've had clients that have been with me for years. And those are usually the clients who are committed to the journey, like committed to the journey of just getting better and better
Would
and
you
better.
say they're more professional speakers?
Yeah, they could be more professional speakers, or they're just goal-oriented entrepreneurs. I mean,
Yeah.
they just know that the more they can hone their skill of communication, the better they're going to be in business.
Right.
And they obviously feel it's working, or they wouldn't stay that long.
Exactly.
So if you're getting that client to stay for a year
Yeah.
or so, that's great.
Every once in a while, I'll get a client who says, I just need some tips. I needed some tips on how to prepare. And I can give them a couple sessions, right? But they're not going to have the same results as someone who's willing to go deeper,
Right.
and really learn the skills for sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about for the people that can't sing, that want to know how to sing? I mean, I'm a terrible singer.
Yeah.
I pretend a lot and annoy people.
Or maybe the ones that think they can and maybe need to be brought down a little bit.
Everyone can sing, believe it or not. Everyone can sing. And I have worked with people who have come to me and they love to sing, but they have been told, I always hear this story over and over again. I was told in high school, my choir director said I shouldn't sing, and that just breaks my heart when I hear that, because I know everyone can sing. And usually, if they are having any kind of issue with singing, it's just because they don't know the technique. They just haven't been taught the technique on how to do it. People who were born singers have this natural gift of tuning into their body and knowing how to use their body as an instrument. And then some people just we're not born with that intuition on how to do that. So I teach them the physical things you need to do to be able to sing. And if
And
they
I think
love
a lot
it,
of it has to do with the tone, right? You're trying to sing.
Pitch
you're trying
matching,
to pitch match. You're
exactly.
trying to sing it
and the
just like it is
diaphragm
on the
breathing,
radio.
isn't that another?
yes,
the breathing?
diaphragmatic breathing is
Yeah.
super important, and also using your rib cage the right way for inhaling and controlling the air. There's so many steps, but if you love to sing and you're willing to learn, then that's really my only requirement.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So.
So you use this voice coaching also in more of a formalized sales training as well.
Yeah, and I am a certified and licensed trainer in a particular method called BANK. And BANK is the world's only methodology that's been scientifically validated to predict buying behavior in less than 90 seconds.
Wow.
So it's a
Wow.
value-based assessment that I can actually assess you. You can tell me your personality or your values, and then I can switch my presentation based on what you tell me. So it's like a language. Everybody has a language that they go about using, and they talk about their product or service in a certain way. The problem is not everybody's the same as you. And so unless you are flexible enough to recognize who it is you're speaking to and know exactly how to shift your presentation to meet what they care about most and how they receive information, you're not going to be as effective at networking, for example, or even if you give a sales presentation to a group.
So you're just not connecting.
You're just not connecting. You're speaking your language, so people who are just like you are getting it, and they're nodding their heads, and they're saying, oh, yeah, you're speaking my language. I want to learn more about you. And other people, it's going right over their heads. And it's not that you couldn't help them. It's just that they're not hearing it. They're
Yeah.
just like not resonating with
Yep.
what you're
They're
saying.
just checked out.
They're checked out. So I teach people how to create presentations that speak to all the personality types so that during that 20, 45-minute presentation, whatever it is, every single personality type has a moment where they go, oh, wow, that's interesting. I want to learn more. So when you're at a networking event and you have to give a 30 to 60-second presentation, I teach my clients how to create a balanced presentation that's going to speak to all four personality types in that 30 to 60 seconds. So that way you're going to get more business cards at the end of the event. More people are going to pay attention to you. Because have you ever been in a networking event and there's like 30 people there and they each get 30 seconds and you basically just ignore what's going on until it's your turn.
Yeah.
So creating that 30 or 60 seconds that people pay attention to,
Right.
that they light up and they go, oh, wow, that's different. I hadn't heard it that way before. Let me go up and talk to her after this is over.
Fascinating. What are the 4 personality types?
Yeah, so the 4 personality types, and I have my little cards that I use to assess people. And the BANK is the acronym that stands for Blueprint. So Blueprint is an inside the box person
Okay.
who likes rules, for example. Okay, blue for blueprint. Then action types are outside the box thinkers who like to break the rules. Okay, red, think like red carpet VIP treatment. Okay, then we have nurturers. These are recycle the box people. They care mostly about relationships and developing relationships with people. And they're yellow, think like a heart of gold. Okay, they're more emotional.
I'm already starting to put the people that I
Yes.
know into these categories.
Exactly. And then this is the knowledge type. It's green. Think like of the Excel logo being green. And they engineered the box. So the box wouldn't even exist if they hadn't come up with the idea of the box. And information is their commodity.
That's awesome.
Okay, so these are the basic 4
Love
types.
that.
And I give workshops all the time on what these mean and how they show up so you can recognize them, and then you can change your presentation based on what they care about most. So that helps you connect with more people and close more sales.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you connect this to your voice training?
So even with the voice training, you can hear a blueprint and a knowledge. The way they use their voice is different than an action and a nurture, for example. These are our emotional codes. They're going to have a lot more inflection in their voice. They're going to have a lot more excitement in their voice. The blueprint and knowledge types are going to be much more even toned in the use of their voice. They're not going to have as much pop or, big moments when they're speaking. They're going to be, calmer. So you can hear some of the vocal inflection in personality types. And I love to be able to use it as an assessment by hearing how they sound. But I oftentimes get clients who are blueprint and knowledge, and they say to me, Stephanie, I want to be more charismatic. I want to make sure that when I give a 45-minute presentation that I'm not boring people. So then we talk about how can you use your voice more powerfully as a blueprint or knowledge type to make a bigger difference. Or maybe sometimes the action type will come to me and say, I talk really fast all the time because I'm so excited about everything I do. How can I slow it down? How can I make a bigger impact from the front of the room without bowling over everyone with my excitement and my enthusiasm?
So by identifying their personality types, you're actually able to customize that voice training
Yes.
to achieve their goals.
Absolutely. And then I can help them create their scripts, because that's what this tool is. This is a script writing tool. How do you create the words to say? And then I use my stage background and my acting background to help them deliver the script with more power.
amazing. You have the
so
whole
it's
package.
what to say and how to say it
Yeah.
that makes it the most impactful.
So do all of your clients go through this first? I mean, what's the process of, or where?
Not necessarily. Sometimes they'll come to me for one-on-one coaching, and we'll talk about the energy, creating a warm-up routine, practicing some physical skills for using your voice. And then I'll have them go through my workshop, and then I also have more advanced training as well. So they can always decide at what level they want to learn it, but I'm always at least making sure they know what this is
Right.
before
Yeah.
we jump in.
So is your workshop group oriented, or is it one-on-one?
Yes.
Okay.
It's group oriented. I love to work with groups of people because then you get the stories. Because what we talk about is everybody's going to have a different personality in the room, and they're going to be able to share their stories. Like, as an action type, as a child, I was always told to calm down. I was always told to lower my voice. And it was interesting because my father is a knowledge type, and my mother also has high knowledge, and they were also introverts. So they were very quiet people in general. And they had this little action child who was like, yay, I want to have fun, I'm loud. And they were, I remember often being told, hey, you know what, calm down.
I know my mom used to always say, must you say everything that's on your mind?
Yeah.
Do you have
go.
to,
Do not have a filter.
Right, do you have to let people know exactly how you feel?
Yeah, right. And so the stories are important. When you're in that group setting, you want to hear What was it like to be a little blueprint child growing up? What was it like to be an action child? Or what struggles do you have in business as a blueprint versus an action?
Yeah.
Because you want to hear from each other, and it becomes cathartic to be able to find someone in the room who's had the same struggles as you, and then understand some good techniques on how to have empathy for the other personality types.
Interesting.
Because a lot of times people will sell to people who are like them because they just get along better.
Yep.
And they'll ignore the other people. They'll say to themselves, oh, well, that's not my ideal client.
So in sales, you're losing so much.
You're
You're leaving
losing.
so much on the table.
Yeah,
You don't even know why.
Because you're like, well, that's an annoying person.
Right.
You know,
Hard to
Instead of understanding
communicate.
who they really are and the way they
Exactly.
think.
And
buy.
they could really use your service, right?
Right.
I mean, you want to help as many people as you can in the world. At least I do.
Yeah.
So being able to adjust your presentation or have empathy for who they are.
Right.
Change the
So
approach. Yeah.
My husband's a blueprint, so he's a rule follower and I'm a rule breaker. So you can only imagine sometimes what happens in our relationship.
Yeah.
But now I have empathy for who he is. So for example, when he rearranges the dishes in the dishwasher, instead of getting mad at him, I just go, oh, honey, you're so cute.
You're a blueprint. Hey, oh, blueprint, you're so cute.
You're so cute. So I have empathy for him now
Right.
in ways I didn't
It's
before.
great though. Once you realize, the makeup of someone and their personality, then rather than getting angry, you do understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I
and
think that's really
I understand
important.
my parents better, and I
Yeah.
understand my sister, who's a high knowledge type, and she was always so annoyed with me when we were growing up, and now
Yeah.
I know why. Because she was a knowledge type, and that's just she was very logic driven, and I was very emotional driven. So things didn't make sense to her.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and let's give you a little plug here and talk about how people get a hold of you and what are the
Yeah.
next steps? What are your workshops? Do you want to
Absolutely.
talk about
Sure.
costs at all, or is that sort of just kind of dependent upon situations
Yeah,
and things
the
like that?
initial workshop is very pocketbook friendly.
Okay.
I charge $25 to come to my first workshop.
Wow.
Okay,
Sign
so
us up.
Yeah, it's very easy. If you just go to whytheybuytraining.com. I always have my next set of workshops listed at that website, and you sign up for the one that works for you.
And do you travel to offices if
I
there's a certain
do.
amount of people?
I
What,
do.
what type of requirement is that?
Yeah, so if you have at least 10 people who would like to get to know this training, if you can put 10 people in the room, I'm happy to travel and come to you.
Is that an
and
hour? Or is it,
It is about 90 minutes.
Okay.
Mhm. I usually block about 2-hour window in case there's questions and that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's about a 90-minute presentation, and I'm happy to share it. I've gone to real estate groups and delivered this presentation. I've gone into companies and delivered
Yeah, well, it
it.
sounds like we're definitely we'll be getting you on the schedule. Excuse me, 100%.
I think, even just in this little bit of back and forth, I think it would be very beneficial for everybody. I love it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
I
welcome.
have a lot of fun teaching it too. We try to make it interactive and
Yeah.
And then my main website is empoweryourvoice.com. So if you want to learn about the voice side of things or coaching side of things, that's where you can go to reach out to me, and happy to schedule up a free call.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate your time and doing this podcast, and certainly can't encourage people enough to give Stephanie a call. I'm sure that you all can benefit by selling more and using your voice, and certainly this bank program and understanding your personality types and how to communicate effectively is very important. So thanks for watching.